rid of the Department of Education, as you promised. I'm sure he didn't put it to Reagan that way, but this was his thinking. If you're not going to get rid of the Department of Education, why don't you get rid of my office, the National Institute of Education, which was the key to all the commie rot, the values destroying everything. And we were sending this stuff all over the world. His office, National Institute of Education. Well, here he is calling for getting rid of his own office. So Ted Bell called him in and said, as long as you feel that way, and he said, why do you feel that way? It's very important what he said. I know that this is very interesting for Kleisik. I don't think he knows this quote. He asked, Ted Bell asked Ed Curran why he wanted to get rid of his own office. And he said, because education is not a science. And I want this to be removed from the planet forever. The use of tax money to destroy true education and substitute it with science, which is B.F. Skinner. So that's why he got himself fired. And all of this really was very significant. I mean, I think I've written about all of it. It's great that Jake picked up on this. I mean, it's amazing because I don't even know how much of the background he had at the time. I think he has more background, more understanding of what I've written about than what I have.
Jake is a brilliant guy, and he's right here. We shouldn't talk to him like he doesn't exist. He's sitting right here. Jake hasn't passed away.
I'm happy to hear y'all.
Big head.
It's fun. Really... Sorry.
Well, then let me put a question out to both of you. Let me put this question to both of you, because it seems like some of the characters involved in this process of the deliberate dumbing down of America, Rockefeller and the Carnegie Foundation, certainly they're capitalists, no?
Oh, yeah, but you see, that's why they're involved. They want to have a merger between the corporate sector and the private sector, which is going on right now. That's the Soviet system. They want that.
And Rockefeller is also London School of Economics, which is a hotbed for Fabian socialism. And when you look at the nonprofit organization, the tax-exempt foundations, that could be looked at as, I guess, the socialist or communist arm of the technocracy. So, you have the corporatist side where Rockefeller has his Standard Oil, his banks, et cetera. And then the corporatist side is where he gets all his profits. He hides them in a tax-exempt foundation that basically, is it's not a government organization, but it's a public organization. So it's in effect, it's not. It's basically a place where they can hide their money, and they can use that money to socially engineer society to funnel back into the companies, and that's in effect. It's not in that way. It is a merger of the public and private, as Charlotte said, and it's not a real free market competition because, right? I mean, they get to hide their money and they get to use the engine of government to reinforce their own companies, and so I think that's how both of those angles get played simultaneously.
That's a very good explanation, Jake. And for a 35-year-old, I keep telling you that, huh? You could be my grandson almost.
Well, happy Mother's Day. I forgot to say that at the beginning. I did want to. This is special for me to be here with you, but it's extra special because it's Mother's Day. Yeah, so happy Mother's Day.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I am a mother of two sons. That's right. And with all the problems all mothers have, but I love both my sons, and I find them very interesting people. They're very different, and but all I can say is everybody's got to realize that no matter how difficult life gets, every day, if you have a strong belief in God Almighty's hand in everything, if you could just get that belief somehow, you'll find that your life does change, and often for the better. If you just can hang in there with a strong belief, your life will turn around and get better. And even for these Americans who are suffering so right now, so horribly I don't think it could be worse. It's equal to, battlefield war. What has been thrown in our faces by these evil, evil people, the coronavirus. It's not that the virus doesn't exist. It's that it's been used to create.
We can see the shameless opportunism that's going on around us, especially with this recent ragtag coup against Venezuela, this rampant invasion with Trump's private security guards right there in the boat. It's fascinating. But let's not get too far off topic. By the way, I did wish you a happy Mother's Day off the air, so I'd like to do it again on the air.
Thank you.
And I do
Thank you
want to
very much.
Thank you. And I want to get into the story of your son, too, since it is Mother's Day. But one last question. Can you give us some specific examples of how these forces are attempting to dumb down Americans, which we all see? I think anybody, I'm 57. Jake's a young man.
Well, I think what they did is they decided to replace education with value change in every way, to just turn the traditional values on their head. That helped a lot. And then they had good teachers were told that they had to use the Skinner method. This was in the early 70s, which is stimulus and response. So people, that's difficult for them to understand. It's simply when you give your dog, you want your dog to sit, you give it a dog biscuit, and it will sit. Well, that's the same thing they put into the schools, a stimulus response. Fido sit, you give Fido a reward, Fido will sit in the future. And that is what's going in. And that is what is used, the computer technology. B.F. Skinner said, the computer is my box. So it's basically this humanistic curriculum that doesn't believe in God or country or anything that is being put in using the Skinner method to implement the global economic system for the benefit of the very elite. You were talking about the ones we know. And that sounds rather cut and dried. As far as I'm concerned, these people are utterly evil. They're depriving our children of the classics, music, art, etc., and they're imposing a very strict school-to-work system where the children are being identified at a very early age for specific jobs using the quota system. Which means that they have no choice. If they happen to be number 11, and the job is to be a janitor or to be a professor or a musician or whatever, and they're only 10, they won't get that job. And that's the Soviet system. And that's why Reagan signed the agreement with Gorbachev to implement the U.S.-Soviet education, social, cultural, workforce training system. So we had that merger with the Soviet Union, Gorbachev, in 1985. And that's there. People can look it up if they want to see what Reagan did.
Didn't Gorbachev even come to the United States? He lives in the United States today, doesn't he?
Oh, yeah. Well, he was out west in California, remember? The Gorbachev, what was the institute out there that was set up? I mean, we allowed him to do everything. The Republican Party was having fundraising luncheons to which they invited Gorbachev.
And is he alive today? Do we know?
Pardon?
Is
He's
Gorbachev
alive.
He's alive today? Okay. Jake, what would you like to contribute to this? Can you give us some examples of the deliberate dumbing down of America?
Real quick, I could just kind of bring it to the current space. She mentioned T.H. Bell and Project Best. Well, T.H. Bell handed off the his secretaryship to Bill Bennett. Bennett set up K-12 Inc., which is one of the biggest online corporations that are out there today. Betsy DeVos also funded K-12 Inc. Peter Thiel, who was Bilderberg Group, excuse me, he was Bill Bennett's speechwriter when he was Secretary of Ed. I have a FOIA document that shows that Betsy DeVos met privately at the Thiel residence during one of her tours. And then you have Thiel. You have also, DeVos is Secretary of Ed now. And what is she pushing through? She's got there's their new federal regulations, 85 FR 1863, ties in with the CARES Act. to push what she calls new distance learning rules. That basically funds everything that Charlotte's talking about. It's getting us stuck in our houses where we're forced to use what's called adaptive learning software. It's the modern name for the the Skinner box. It uses the stimulus response method. And since we're stuck in here and we're all broke, we're basically forced to take this CARES Act money, and that's what it funds. And now she has two competitions to get more of the CARES Act money. One is called Rethink K-12 Education Models. The other one's called Reimagine Workforce Preparation. So there's the school to work with the adaptive learning Skinner box technology with all the key players Charlotte just mentioned, a straight line from one person to the other. And now Governor Cuomo has a Build Back Better initiative. And who is he using? He's using the Gates Foundation. And what's it called? It's called Reimagine Education. It's basically called the same thing that the CARES Act grant is called. And who's on the board of it? It's Eric Schmidt of Google. And if you go on my website, I have 66 different Bill Gates Foundation grants that show he funded every different aspect of this Leviathan that is coming to fruition right now.
Mark Tucker of Carnegie, who was the original one in New York State, his major plan, which really is what you've just been discussing, Jake, is now being implemented in Maryland. And so, I mean, you have to remember that all of these plans are now being implemented. Basically, not in all the schools aren't yet charter, which is Betsy DeVos, but the goal is to have all the schools chartered, so there will be no elected boards to oversee the expenditure of the local tax money. Very, very serious, and we warned on this. I've been very much one-minded on the issue of school choice and charters, where I don't discuss anything else going on in the world, hardly, than prior to, this was prior to Betsy DeVos, the turning over of education to charter schools, which have no elected boards. And that means the end of representative form of government, because the school system at the federal, state, and local level, the budget at the federal, state, and local level, education, its budget exceeds that of defense. It is $1 trillion plus 3 years ago. That is at the three levels, $1 trillion plus, and the Defense Department is under $1 trillion.
Yeah, you know,
so we're in major trouble.
Yeah, I would agree with both of you on that account. One more thing I'd like to throw in, too, no one's talking about, is Nicole Junkerman, the Epstein associate no one's talking about. Did a show about this woman about 6 months ago, right around the time of the death of Epstein. And she's an Israeli intelligence agent, and she's behind a software that's being implanted in cell phones to monitor social distancing. When you call 911, it takes over your phone, it takes over the camera, the mic, and the video, and they see what's around you, who you're in contact with, who's nearby you, and now they're marketing it for this quarantine social distancing. When we were talking about this woman months ago, and she's very active in suing YouTube to take down videos that mention her. Yeah.
Yep. And let me add to that. At the end game of my book, I basically say that everything's going to lead to social credit. That's what we're talking about right now. Contact tracing is the beginning of social credit, basically through the public-private merger that Charlotte talks about, through things called P20, P16 councils and other state and federal apparatus. They're merging education with healthcare and criminal justice, which means your FERPA records, that's for education, your HIPAA records for medical, and all your Department of Justice regulations. Everything that's supposed to keep those things separate, it's going to get merged into a single technocratic social credit system, which I've talked about on your show a few times, Ed. And so this is the Trojan horse to get in social credit, at every level. And you can see it. And so, and at the school, I was at a meeting the other day, Zoom meeting, talking with people in the department, and they're talking about, what should our role be in contact tracing? And my opinion is it shouldn't be anything, because we are under FERPA. We have no right to be looking at anybody's medical records, and we certainly don't have any right to be sharing them with other agencies. But because of COVID-19, we're under the duress that this is good because it's going to keep us safe, and that's where we're at.
Well, yeah, and you know what? This whole plan that we're looking at now is started in Montgomery County, Maryland, in the 40s, absolutely late 40s. The change agent came down from New York City, Paul Mort, and he said,